Hi, and welcome to another edition of God Allows U-Turns. I've been behind on my videos lately. I was sick for a while, but I'm doing really good now, and I thank God that He has protected me and my family, and that He's protected you and your family as well. And if any of your family members have been sick or are sick, we are keeping them in prayer as well. And I do pray for everyone because all this pandemic has really touched my heart. And when I tell you that I pray, I really pray for you, okay? And I'm thankful that you tuned in today because it's very important what I have to say to you today. I really prayed a lot before I spoke, and I thank God that I'm able to speak properly when things like these happen. Whenever there are cases where you have an extreme or vicious crime or something that has really hurt our community and hurt me. I used to be the type of person that reacted right away and stated my opinion, but I noticed that if I take my time and relax and just watch everything that goes on and give some time for me to process everything and to actually get the facts straight, I gain better perspective, and so I'm more equipped to give my opinion and tell you what really things that are going on as far as this goes. As you all know, George Floyd is an African American man who passed away. But he didn't pass away by natural causes. He passed away because he was murdered. He was murdered by a police officer by the last name of Chauvin. And he was murdered in the most brutal way. It was something that we all saw. It was something that was captured in camera. And we were able to see the tragedy of his murder. And we all experienced it. It was very hard for me to watch something like that. The man apparently had purchased some cigarettes with a fake $20 bill, and when the manager of the store came to call it to his attention, there was a sort of like I think they both had a disagreement. The police was called, and George Floyd was arrested. He did not resist arrest. He was put in handcuffs, and then after he was placed in handcuffs, for some reason he was put inside the cop's car. But he told the cop that he suffered from claustrophobia, and that he could, it bothered him being inside there. So the officer came and he threw him on the floor and placed his knee on his neck. As he was placing his knee on his neck, let me remind you that George Floyd has his hands behind his back and they were handcuffed. He was of no danger to the officers. There were other 4 officers around him watching this. There were people capturing this in their cameras. The officer by the last name of Chauvin had his knee on his neck and his hand in his pocket. And as he was doing this, Mr. Floyd was constantly telling him that he wasn't able to breathe. He said it several times. I'm unable to breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And by telling him this, he was also telling him that his body was hurting. The officer showed no emotion, no concern for his life. In fact, he just kept pressing on his neck while he had his hand in his pocket. By studying this video, I saw, because of my background, I could see some signs that this man had. The police officer showed signs of psychopathy, narcissism, and sadism. And the reason why I say this is because if you notice and you analyze the video, as I did many times, the policeman showed he was completely expressionless, you know. It looked like he wanted to dominate Floyd and to express to the public that he was fearless and that he was the one in charge, okay? When the public began to complain and try to kind of intervene, the officer showed his pepper spray and showed him that he could, you know, pepper spray them if they continued to do that. It was sort of like an us against them mentality, you know, the policeman in charge, you know. Floyd made it very clear that he was dying, okay? And even when the paramedics showed up, the officer did not remove his knee. And let me remind you that it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds that this cop had his knee on his neck, okay? And this was what I saw as being the sadistic part of this man, to wanting to inflict pain on him, and knowing that even though he was dying and suffering, he did not remove his knee, but rather kept it pressed on him, okay? And that is a sign of sadism upon, you know, of this cop, okay? 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it's a long time, okay? And what got to me the most was, or the part that really hurt me, was in the last seconds of Mr. Floyd's life, after he was saying numerous times that he couldn't breathe, that his body was hurting, that he kept saying, please, I can't breathe. In the last seconds of the video, you could hear him saying, Mama, Mama. He was calling for his mother, okay? He was calling for his dead mother. Now, there are two aspects here that really bother me about this, okay? When he started to call his mother, it reminded me of a time when I've been, you know, hospitalized many times, as I told you in my videos before, okay? When you're hospitalized and you are, you know, they perform surgery on you. When you wake up from surgery, sometimes the surgery is so painful and the recovery is so painful. And let me just interject here. I have a high tolerance for pain. Yet still, in my most painful times, okay, I find myself, you know, I would cry to God, but I would also cry to my mother, who, by the way, also passed away. And this is the way of your brain coping with pain, okay? You call upon the people that mean the most to you, even though they're not there. The pain is so great that you can't find comfort, is the way of your brain finding solace and comfort during that last period of time, okay? So in that last period of time for Floyd, I'm sure he thought, you know, he already thought he was dying, okay? So he associated that with his mother. Could have been that he saw his mother in his mind. Could have been that that was the most tender moment of that part of his death, okay? Him calling his mother, okay? Now, when I saw that part, the hairs on my hands stood up, you know, my arms. I could tell, I could feel his pain and his desperation. I could feel it because I have felt that too. I felt it also because my husband is only a couple of shades lighter than Mr. Floyd. My son as well, okay? I live in the South, and I have experienced many instances where people have been very racial, or I should say racist, towards my husband and my son. And there have been times when I would have to intervene, okay? I'm first and foremost Hispanic. I consider myself Puerto Rican. Believe it or not, my first language is Spanish. And I never experienced this, okay? I never did. I've always sort of fit in, or I've fallen under the cloud of white privilege, because that's who people thought that I was, okay? When I got married, I started to experience that racism and prejudice from other people, and from my son as well, okay? And there were times when I would have to intervene and defend and cause stressful situations and arguments, unfounded, because of the level of racism placed towards them. So when this officer, okay, arrested Mr. Floyd, racism played a part, and that's inevitable to see. And those people that say, oh no, it didn't, let me tell you that you need to educate yourself and inform yourself a little bit better, because racism did play a part in this, a big part in this. And that is why us Hispanics, I want to talk to you about this too, because a lot of people feel that, well, I'm Hispanic, that doesn't happen to me. Let me tell you something. Take a few seconds right now and look at the color of your skin, okay? If your color of your skin is a light color, it's a light tan, it's a white color, let me tell you that that is part of a privilege that you have, okay? If you have family members that are not, if your sons, daughters, husband, or anybody else falls into that category, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you cannot hide under the pretense to say, oh, but I'm raising my kids to fit in. I'm raising my kids to be as white as possible so they won't have any problems. It's not the way you raise them to be, okay? It's who they are. It's their skin color. That is the problem. And that is what we are fighting against. That has to completely end. And we cannot pretend that it doesn't exist. I've heard preachings and I've heard pastors who talk about this. But unless they have experienced what I have experienced, what you have experienced, they will not understand why this is happening, okay? Now, if you look back at the George Floyd situation, okay, why were the other officers that were there, why were they afraid to challenge him, okay? I understand the people were afraid to challenge them because they could have gotten, tasered or arrested, in a situation like that. They could have gotten hurt, okay? But the officers, there were 4 officers there who could have done something about it, okay? But because it's an us against them mentality in the police department, okay, that is why they didn't intervene. Because the police have a habit of covering for each other. They cover for each other. Policemen do this a lot, okay? And there are laws that defend them, okay? When things like this happen. And this happens a lot, okay? The reason why the George Floyd situation completely bursted like a bomb, and it caused so many protests, it caused so many people mad and running in the streets and facing signs and doing all kinds of things. It's because people were already having it up to here. There were already a lot of black men being murdered for no reason, okay? I want you to analyze the situation of what was going on. Recently in Georgia, a young man, I believe his first name was Ahmed, and he was jogging, okay? He was just simply jogging when these 2 white men came with guns. The young man that was jogging, he went into a house that was under construction just to see. There was a video in the home that showed him doing absolutely nothing but looking in the house. And let me tell you, I cannot count the reasons I've seen houses under construction, and I went to see them just because I'm curious to see, let's say, if it's a house that I would like to buy or what the house looks like. It's nobody's private property quite yet. So a lot of people do this. But because this young man was black and he was doing this, right away these two southern white men on a truck with two guns, okay, decided to shoot this young man for absolutely no reason whatsoever, okay? How is a young man going to be a threat to two men with guns? Prior to this, these two men have called 911 already. So when you call 911 on someone, that means you're letting the police handle the situation. You don't have to take matters into your own hands with your guns and shoot somebody. Now that's just crazy. And then to go on in your life like as if nothing happened, no remorse whatsoever, no apology, no explanation, okay? Which is the same thing that happened with Officer Chauvin, okay? He shot George Floyd, okay, with absolutely no remorse whatsoever, knowing that he murdered someone. Why is it that we think that we are the ones that can add value or that can justify the value of a human being based on their color? It doesn't matter if George Floyd was a drug dealer, or if he was drunk, or if he gave that fake $20 bill, okay? It doesn't matter what he did. Just as much as the young guy who was running. That could have been my son. That could have been your son, your husband, because they're dark colored. And that is what they're looking at. The darker the color, the worse you seem. Oh, you're a really bad guy because you're dark. It's just the way it is. And you cannot tell me that that's not right, because it's true. And it happens everywhere. It happens in churches. It happens in schools. It happens in any institution that you see. We see racism. Systemic racism. It's real. But I have a different definition as to what systemic racism is. I don't like the way the media has covered this, okay? Because what the media has done with this is they have politicized this in a way that has become totally out of control. Because now they want to completely defund the police department, and they're using this to win votes, okay, for the Democratic Party. And that is completely evil and wrong. You cannot use the sufferings of the people of color or black people to use it to your advantage to run this political party, okay? We know very well how unqualified Joe Biden is. He's extremely unqualified to run for the presidency. Not that I don't see what Donald Trump has done either. Because Donald Trump has really let me down in his actions. He could have done so much more after all these deaths, and yet he didn't. Why? Because he thinks that if he shows some kind of sensitive or any kind of sensitive tone towards these murders, he thinks that his policies of taking control of the situation are going to fall in deaf ears, okay? So he really shuns that sensitivity issue, that compassion issue, but that's what makes people human. That is what we need right now from the president. We need the president to acknowledge the pain that the Black community is going through right now. We need for him to have a plan. I do not believe in defunding the police department at all. We need the police. It's ludicrous to think that we don't need the police. That is conducive to anarchy. That is conducive to even more crimes, okay? So, I really want to persuade you, if I could, don't watch the mainstream media and consider it news. ABC, NBC, CNN, CBS, those are not the news, okay? Fox News is not the news either. I am an independent thinker, okay? I watch all kinds of news. I watch BBC, I watch The Guardian, I watch the Epoch Times, I watch so many other news, okay? Most of my news I like to watch them in YouTube because I'm a YouTuber, okay? I like to see what other people are thinking, not necessarily, one point of view. I understand that you're Republican and you have a way of thinking, but listen, please, I want you to broaden your mind a little bit. Inform yourself. Read. Don't say, well, I'm Republican and Fox News said this, so I believe this blindly. No, we are not robots, okay? God did not create robots. God gave us a mind for us to think and read and inform ourselves, okay, of what is really going on. Sometimes what you think is going on, it's not the reality. But I guarantee you when you turn on the television and you watch NBC News, those are not the news. Those news that you're watching, they're being partisan. They want you to vote a certain way, and it's in a democratic way. It's in a way that it's going to benefit them, okay? Right now, Hollywood is the one in charge of that. And as you can see them, they are the ones donating money to the Black Lives Matter movement, okay? And let me tell you something. If you don't agree with the Black Lives Matter movement, you are considered a racist. But let me tell you, that is wrong. I am in favor that Black matters do matter. You know, black lives do matter. I know that, and you know that. We know that their lives matter. Now, to say that and to condone the movement, that movement is wrong. It's backed up by Hollywood. It's backed up by politicians. It's made to be a political party with a political agenda. That is why the Black Lives Matter movement, it's not a good movement, okay? It keeps the black man down, oppressed, begging the white people to accept them. That is not what the black people want. And you're going to see, and I please understand this. If you don't understand anything at all, understand this. Not all the black people are for Black Lives Matter. That is the reason why when the protests began, there were a lot of protesters that were looting and destroying property. They were destroying businesses, correct? Right. But not all the black people were on board with that. They started the silent protesting, okay? And a lot of them do see what's going on, okay? And they're not in favor of that. So don't say all black people are destroying this. All black people are defunding the police. No, not all black people. And that is the fault that the white community has, that they want to put all black people on one spot thinking this is the way they think. No, they think different ways. Not because they're black do they automatically believe you are doing a disservice to this country if you're placing all the black people together as a tribe, like one brain, like they cannot think for themselves. Just because someone is of a specific race or ethnicity does not mean that they automatically believe a certain way, okay? And this is what happens with extremist right Republicans, okay? They do not acknowledge racism, okay? They don't acknowledge it unless it's blatantly obvious. Please understand that when black people complain about racism, a lot of times it's true. They have been suffering with this for a long, long time. Colin Kaepernick, the reason why he started to kneeling down, and the rest of the NFL started to, bend on one knee, is because they're protesting because the lives of the other black men have been taken away, their rights as well. It's the best way they can protest. What else could they do? Okay, I'm not saying it's the right way. I think there are ways that they can show respect, like the president says, to the flag, to the hymn, to put your hand on your heart and just show respect to it. But at the same time, if they don't do this, they are not being heard. There has not been a conversation established with the president where he has been addressing this issue. Okay, so there are ways that they're trying to tell us, look, please help us. Okay, now it's gotten out of hand completely, but it's up to the president and up to everyone in the police department to get this right. We don't need to defund the police, but rather we can use this and provide the police with new skills and start changing the laws so that the immunity that policemen get when a crime has been committed can be removed and they can be better prosecuted for crimes this way. Real quickly, I'm going to tell you, do you remember what happened to Botham Jean? I believe it was in Texas, okay? This female officer went to open what she thought was her apartment, and when she opened her apartment, there was a black man sitting on a sofa eating ice cream, okay? She panicked because she thought this was her apartment, so she shot the man dead. Botham Jean was his name, okay? Now, there were so many different ways this could have been handled, okay? First of all, let's suppose that she's right, that she thought that was her apartment. There's many reasons I can tell you how wrong she was for thinking this, okay? But why couldn't she fired the gun to injure the man rather than to kill him, okay? Or even better, why couldn't she just yell a warning, stop or I'll shoot? What did the man have? A bowl of ice cream? What could he possibly been, do with that to the police officer? It was his apartment. She had no right to go in there and just shoot him. Okay, so what did she get? She got a slap in the wrist, a few years in jail, nothing major. And this was a good man. This was a good going, church going man who everybody loved. And who he was going to do great things with his life. But regardless, even if he had been doing drugs, he did not deserve to die. And that is my point. We are not the ones to say whose life is more valuable than the other, because you can never say that your son will never be doing drugs or be caught in the wrong time at the wrong place. Right now you're raising your son in a great environment and he might be doing great things, but we never know, and we cannot judge someone by their actions, because even if they have been doing drugs, they could turn out to do wonderful things. And let me tell you something, if you are a leader or if you're a churchgoer, and you see a man who is a drug addict and he stumbles in the church, are you going to tell him, get out, you're not worth anything? No. You would invite him in. You would pray for him. You would try to find out what the problem is. You would try to get him involved in some kind of program for him to get better, right? So the same thing goes when he goes out in the street. He doesn't deserve to be shot, because God gives us life and he gives value and meaning to our life. Sometimes we don't understand how meaningful our life is, but it's up to each other to tell each other, look, you have value in your life. God gives you value in your life. Your life is worth something, okay? That is why he put us here on earth. Jesus did not tell Peter, hey, Peter, go put a church over there up in the mountain. We're no prostitutes around, no drug addicts, no people that are cheating on their spouses. We don't want nobody that's doing drugs or alcoholics. None of that. We just want a church up in a mountain where it's away from everything, okay? And just good people up there only. Okay, only holy people and good people, right? Did Jesus say that? No. He called Peter to put a church right in the middle of the disaster that we call earth. Right in the middle of all this. This is where the church is supposed to be. We're supposed to love each other right where we are at. We're not supposed to love each other. Well, I love her when she changes. I love her when he stops doing that, you know. I'll embrace him when he stops doing all those, you know. I can't stand his habits, you know. That's not the type of love that God wanted for us to each other. We are our brother's keeper. We are the ones that show love towards each other. That is what God meant. And I'm going to prove to you through the Bible what God really meant. Because during this quarantine, funny how I've been hearing a lot of preachings, you know, stating that, you know, that Jesus is coming soon. That's why these pandemics are going on and all these riots are happening. You know, Jesus is coming soon, and we need to prepare our hearts more than ever. You know, they get that all riled up, you know, and you would think that would light a fire in us to love each other more, right? To really embrace each other more, because Jesus is right around the corner, right? Well, let me tell you, I have not seen that big of a difference. I have not seen people really forgive each other and love each other and call each other and say, you know what? I did wrong. I have done wrong. I'm sorry for not loving you the way that I should love you, you know, because Jesus is coming soon, right? That, not even that would get us to love each other the way God is telling us to love each other. And this is why the Lord said this. You know, the Pharisees were always trying to trick Jesus into saying, you see, you're not as good as I thought you were. But Jesus was always doing the opposite. And here in Matthew 22, and here in verse 37, you know, well, first of all, let me read you on verse 36. It says, "Teacher," he asked, "which is the most important commandment in the law?" You know, we have 10 commandments, you know. So they're asking him, what is the most important commandment? Well, what is the best commandment here, you know? And Jesus could have said, well, do not kill. That's going to be the most important commandment is do not kill. If that would be the most important commandment, most of us would be on the safe side, right? We'd be like, oh, I'm in already. I don't even have to worry about anything. But that wasn't it. But then let's say that Jesus would say, well, the most important commandment is do not steal. Don't steal. a lot of us would also be like, whoo, thank God I don't steal, so, I'm good with that, or I stole something in the past, but that was when I was little. Now I'm like, so I'm good, I'm going to heaven. Yeah, I'm going, but no, not even adultery. So if you've been married for 20 plus years and your marriage is outstanding, never stepped out of it or anything, that doesn't get you to heaven either. You know what gets you to heaven? You know what God really wants from us? It's this. He says that the most important commandment is this. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your mind. This is the first and most important commandment. And the second is just like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Everything, he says everything, that is written in the law and the prophets is based on these two commandments. So basically it's two that all rolled into one is the most important commandment. Love the Lord with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself, which means that the same benefits that you want for yourself, you want it for your neighbor. You want it for them. The same. There's no difference there. And we're always determining, I want the best for her because she's the closest one to me. She's the nicest one to me. Oh, we've been together for like 10 years. I know her so much. Her family's like my family. So that is so easy. What sacrifice is that for you? Absolutely none. But how about that one that is so hard to love? That she's got these bad habits. That her personality and your personality are not that much alike. But you know that if you talk to her a little bit more, or if you talk to him a little bit more, and you go around him, and you're there right now when he needs you the most, because you have not called him to see, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? No, I don't call him because I don't really like him that much. Now, could you imagine if God had done that for us? Sarah failed me, and she fell short. So I'm not even gonna bother with her. No. Jesus loves us no matter what. But that same love is hard for us to pass along for some reason. Even if we know he's knocking at our door. Like this. And all Christians go, oh, he's right around the corner. Jesus is coming soon. Look at this pandemic. Look at what's going on. Oh, no. That is so hard to do. I can't do that. But that is what God is asking us to do. That is what's going to really, really impact our lives. That's what's going to say to Jesus, we love you. We love you. And let me tell you something in this first part of this, okay? If you want to know how to hit this problem right on the head, first of all, let me tell you that personal contact, okay, it's critical. Personal contact is critical to the development of a better understanding of other ethnicities. In other words, let me look at your circle of friends, the people that you relate to, the people that you talk to. What ethnicity are they? What color is their skin? What culture are they? Do you understand why they think the way they think? Why they say what they say? Or just because they don't agree with you or you don't understand them, you just shun them. Oh, those black people are like that. Oh, those Indians, oh, I can't stand them. The Chinese people, they gave us the COVID. I mean, it's so easy to shun people out that we don't understand, okay? But personal contact is critical to it. You have to have personal contact. Jesus died for that. He died so that you could tell others about them, okay? And you don't have to be up in the missions in Iran or somewhere in Africa. No. He's not asking about that. Right here. People are coming here. Your neighbor, the people that cross the street all the time with you, the people you work for, people that go to church with you. Church is not a group of people that you have something in common with, and you form little groups of people like that, because sometimes it could turn that way too, Oh, well, she's not in my group, so, No, church is church. It's the body of Christ. Church is, I cry when you cry, and I'm happy when you're happy. And the same goes for the world. They have to see that change. We impact the world so we can love each other. Not the BLM movement. It's the Jesus movement. That's what's going to make a change in this world. That's what's going to make a change in our families, in our communities. And I want you to think about that. And I'm very passionate about this subject because it really hits my heart. And it's something that I can relate to. It's something that I have relate to. And it was bound to happen. All this mess that we're living right now is bound to happen because we've ignored it for too long, pretending it doesn't exist. And it does exist. Now this is part 1, and in part 2, I'm going to share with you a testimony, and I'm also going to share some pointers on how we can become better as society with this. I hope this has been a blessing to you. And remember that God allows U-turns. You can always make up, change your mind and turn it around. That is something God is a master of. He's a master of forgiveness. He's a master of second chances. And that's why I'm here. Because He's given me many chances. And He's loved to give you more to you. God bless you.